Welcome to a Community Partners interview, where we explore the organizations, opportunities, and resources that look to make change in our daily lives. I'm your host, Jocelyn Dore, and you're listening to Voices for Ability Radio, all abilities, all the time. Today, I'm joined by Dave Thomson, with Community Outreach Coordinator for the Richmond Center for Disabilities. The Richmond Center for Disabilities, or RCD, is a resilient organization within an often challenging funding environment. They're participant focused and committed to empowering their diverse cross-disability membership. They do this by remaining approachable and responsive to members' and stakeholders' needs.
That's us in a nutshell. Hello.
Their flexible and resourceful center staff work collaboratively with their participants. Thanks to their teamwork and through their many activities and services, they regularly witness their members moving forwards with perseverance and self-determination and growth towards independence. Thank you for joining us today, Dave. Tell us a bit more about you and what inspired you to work at Richmond Center for Disabilities and to work with individuals with disabilities.
Thank you. I was one of those, like that old commercial where the guy says, I used to be a client, then I bought the company. I was the same way. I used to be a client and then I got a job there. So when I have a chronic illness, a rare form of fibromyalgia. And when I was about 2 years into my illness, still very acute, we moved to the city of Richmond, BC, and I could no longer drive. And I'm from Alberta, so I didn't know Richmond at all. And the RCD had this massive wall of pamphlets and information. I could only spend maybe 5 minutes on the phone because I couldn't even hold the phone up to my ear for very long. And I couldn't spend much time on the computer either because my illness is neurologically based. And I was basically like a Mexican jumping bean. I couldn't sit still. So going to the RCD was a great time saver and energy saver for me because I could find a whole bunch of stuff in one spot. And so I became a client of their job program. And then I put myself back through school years later. And then when I was done, they had a position that I shared with another person for the longest time. And that's how I kind of got started there.
While doing my research, I noticed that you have some services that you have to offer. Can you tell us a bit more about those services and what they entail?
Sure. So we're a little bit different than a lot of organizations because we don't just focus on a certain disability or a certain illness or what else. We're, like I said, like you said in the intro, cross disability. So we kind of fill those gaps between what those other organizations do. And we cover mental, physical, emotional, every disability. But our main focus is we are an IL center, which is across Canada. And the independent living centers have a certain sort of mandate that we don't do stuff for people. We empower them so they can do it for themselves, sort of thing. I know that's not don't quote me on that. That's not a direct quote from their information, but that's kind of what we do. And we do a lot of information and referral. So our basic cores are information and referral, recreation and socialization. We do employment and community involvement. And so those are our sort of core services. But a lot of the stuff we do a lot of on a daily basis, we have a user group that's maybe on the learning disabilities and autism scale that come to a lot of our sort of daily or monthly, weekly programs. We do parking passes for the area for the accessible parking pass, which is a big thing. And we help people with their forms, especially if they've come from another country and language is a challenge. So applying for CPP disability, applying for PWD, which is the BC form of support provincially.
I also noticed that you have some activities that you offer. Can you tell me a little bit more about those?
Yeah, like we're sort of we've been in a real big flux because we actually, before COVID, we had our building torn down. And we were promised a new spot in the new building when it was built. We had to move into a mall location in a local mall just across the way from our original location. And that was great. But then we were told we had to move from that location to across the hallway in the mall because someone else wanted our spot. So we've had a lot of flux. So we've been trying to sort of keep a lot of our programs, Um, but we are actually just about ready to move back to that new building because it has now been finished. It was delayed, of course, like most construction was during COVID. And we're hopefully moving in January. But our programs on a daily, we do singing club, we do arts and crafts, we do a games club. So these are some of our popular programs. We do computer classes. We have a full computer teaching lab. Those have sort of started to come back. Those we did a lot more before COVID. We do a life skills class, which is very popular as well. And that's just a group of people sort of learning life, depending on where their barriers are. And we do stuff like they learn how to take the bus. They learn how to go shopping. They do cooking. We do a special cooking class. So those are what you'd see going on in the day to day.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I also noticed, and you were talking about earlier about you help out with the accessible parking permit. So how can one apply for that permit through your organization?
Well, interesting to note, we actually, during COVID, we got into a partnership with the University of Windsor, of all places, out your way.
Yeah.
And they helped develop a better user friendly way to do it online. It's not my expertise, it's not my part of the job, but I know the basics. So they worked with all the computer jargon and getting some, so you can actually do it online, or you can come in and apply for the pass with a doctor's note, usually is how it, and sometimes the doctors will charge for filling out the note, and we can't really control how much that is. But the cost is usually about $31, and it usually takes a day or two to process.
That's pretty quick, all things considered.
Yeah.
So, are there any restrictions to the services and programs at RCD?
No, it's funny because we don't frisk you at the door for your disability. People are always sort of stuck in those boxes, and they're like, "Oh, I can't come in here. I don't have a disability." But everyone is connected somehow to disability. And you give me 10 minutes of your time and I'll find a connection for you somewhere. So we help the families, and most of our program, we do prefer people buy or sign up as a member for our organization. It's a very, very steep cost. It's only $10 a year. So, but we will let people come in and try anything. And we don't want a space taken by someone who's, let's say, I hate to use the term able-bodied, but that a disability person could take. But if you want to come in and try out what it is, and then if you'd like to be a member, but usually it's for people with disabilities and their family. And no, we don't check you at the door. You can come in, you can take a look, because like I said, you may have a friend or a cousin or someone that you can sort of pass the information on. And it's different because in our old location and going into our new location, we're in a standalone building. So people will kind of have to make a plan. They want to come to our location for some reason. They're going to have to park their car, take the bus, and walk into our location. In the mall, people just walked by it and they would stop and kind of get curious, right? So it was a sort of a different vibe so we would have people sort of looky-looing and peeking in, going, should I go in here? What's this place about, right? Because there's not a lot of nonprofit organizations in malls.
No, not really. So, without using any names, can you share a success story with me? What supports were put in place when someone asked for help?
All right. Well, I can sort of, I can use my success story in one sense, but like basically when I first went there, I went through their jobs program, and it gave me the confidence to go back to school. And then with my illness, I've only been able to work about 15 hours a week. And because the organization is so open to every disability, I have a very bizarre illness, and it has symptoms and stuff that are not usually accepted in a normal office setting. So it can be very tough for me to fit in. But at RCD, they're just like, oh, that's what Dave does. He falls asleep in meetings all the time. Don't worry, we'll tell him what he missed when he wakes up. So that's definitely has been a success story. We had one gentleman who just really blossomed here. He had a heart condition and he had a heart attack. He was a student or like a driver instructor, and he could no longer do that because he could possibly have a heart attack in a car. And he was able to retrain and sort of find a focus and volunteer with us and sort of restart his life again. So we have a lot of those sort of situations. We one time sent years ago, a guy walked into our center when I first started working there, and he was with his mother, and they were just actually killing time because they got too early for a doctor's appointment for his mother, and they ended up staying 2 hours in our center. And a week later, he signed up as a board member. And he actually just thought that our old location where we were, it used to be a used sporting goods place, and he thought, "Oh, we'll just look around in here for a
Yeah.
couple hours."
You got a
I got a
surprise.
hold of him, and that was it. So that's kind of what we do. We've been around for 40 years now. We're on our 40th year, and because we're not held by a sort of an edict from an organization that may be in another province or whatnot else, we really can kind of just try anything. I wasn't trained to work in nonprofit. I was a provincial maximum security prison guard for this. I'll try anything. And that's basically kind of what I do is I try to bring in things that a lot of our clients, they sometimes are sort of held by their barriers. They don't want to try stuff, or they try something and then they don't like it. So I bring in almost anything. I vet it so that they don't have to, because sometimes they won't say that they don't want to or whatnot. And then they know that I've already looked at it and they can come in and try a little bit of it and see if they like it, and then they can go out and pursue it more.
What is something that you see happening over and over again to individuals with disabilities that shouldn't be? And how do you think it could be stopped?
Well, I've actually been doing, I'm in the process of working on doing a suit, kind of like a pregnancy suit for people with with people with chronic illness and invisible illness. That's where I can speak from. And a lot of it comes from that same of just that judgment. I was had an interview with these two students that are gifted, I believe, and they're working on with an engineer from Seattle about helping people with disabilities. And I said, always remember that old cartoon where the Boy Scouts take the old lady across the street, but they didn't ask her which street she was crossing, and they took her the wrong way. And it's very powerful. I think a lot. I've learned that by working where I've been working is that talk to the person first and don't make that first judgment of what is really the difficulty, because they could really be past that as a difficulty, but something else might be.
Exactly. That's important.
I don't know if I made that
Oh, yeah, for sure.
kind of get my gist, but yeah, yeah. Like I remember I met a guy who had very deformed hands, and because I was working at RCD, I was empowered enough to go, I'd really like to shake your hand, but I don't know if you do that. But before I
Mhm.
probably wouldn't have even done that, right?
Are there any events coming up for RCD?
Well, like I said, our big event is moving. So we're kind of, and because we're moving into a new location right now, we're kind of holding off on really starting a lot of things new at the moment. But we will be in January, of course, time to celebrate our 40th anniversary and the opening of our new center. So those will be coming, but just because of the timing, we've had to sort of put those into
Mhm.
a belated celebration.
Yeah, moving is time consuming for sure.
Well, yeah, and we had a move that we didn't even have to do because the people that were going to go into our location, it fell through and the place sat empty for a
Wow.
year. So it was a little frustrating, but yeah, so we hope to be revamping our programming, and sort of, we don't want to take old programming to a brand new shiny place. So we'll be looking for starting fresh in 2026 in a new building, and I get a tour next week, I believe. So,
Wow, that sounds exciting. So hope all that goes well for you guys.
and I did AMI TV several years ago, and who knows what's going to be happening with them. And I'm actually going on the radio again as well.
Wow.
I did radio a
That's
couple
awesome.
years ago, and I'm going back on CFRO Access radio again, helping out a friend who wants to take a little time off. So I might be calling you guys for an interview.
Sounds like fun. I look forward to it. So, if someone wants to become a member or volunteer with RCD, what is the process for each of those?
Well, we always carry volunteer applications whenever we do public events. So whenever the sort of questions go that direction, we hand those out. Or you can come into our center and ask for a volunteer application. And a membership, again, it's online and it's in person. And there's different types of members. Like some of companies can be like associate members. And that's also probably something that we're revamping for our new location, is how our membership works. But you can always come into the center right now in Lansdowne Mall and ask to become a member.
What is the one thing that everyone needs to know about RCD?
I think that's the big thing, is we don't check your disability at the door. We want to just sort of figure out what it is. Or we want to, like I said, we've had people go, oh, I could tell this to my mom, or I could, just don't not come in because you don't seem to. Many years ago, I was working an event table with a coworker, and it was in a running track, and all the people were exercising around us, and we were in the middle. And I think this guy had his headphones on, and he was using his outside voice, but he thought it was his inside voice.
Oh, yeah.
And he looked at our sign and he went, Richmond Center for Disability. Well, I don't have a disability, so I don't have to talk to you guys. And it's just like, that's the thing. It's just not put yourself in that box, because you will find a connection somewhere, and you just never know.
That's true. So, if listeners are looking for more information, how can they reach out to you?
They can go on to our website, which is www.rcdrichmond.org. We are also on Facebook and Instagram, but I could not recite those things. About the only one.
Fair enough.
You can contact me at dave@rcdrichmond.org. And our phone number is 604-232-2404. I have to be very careful because my work number is extremely close to my home number. And I always have to sort of pause.
Yeah, I don't want to be giving out your home
Yeah.
number on the radio. Anyways, thanks for joining us today. I really enjoyed talking to you and learning about the Richmond Disability Center.
Great. Thank you very much.
This has been a Community Partners interview on Voices for Ability Radio. All abilities, all the time.